Good evening, everybody. I was supposed to be interviewing Michael Anden, creator of the Mortal Worlds. I've been trying to reach him via Twitter because I don't have anywhere other way to reach him. I don't know if he fell asleep because it's so late over there. So I decided to go ahead and start the stream. Hopefully he joins, and then we can get going. Um, I apologize for anybody that might tuned in for the delays. We just want to give the guy the courtesy to show up. We'll give it the good old college try, the 5 minutes, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully, like I said, he will join shortly. I've been trying to hit him via the Twitter, and yeah, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. But like I said, it's late. He might have fallen asleep. He might have fallen asleep, and those things happen. Yeah, and it's getting retweets on Twitter. So we're hoping that that Michael joins in. It would be awesome. It would be really awesome. So on news, I guess in the Comicsgate news, the books are being delivered. I did a review of Flying Sparks. It's a pretty decent book. I liked it. I like the way that John DeLaRose writes. He really took me by surprise in his writing skills. I am not a science fiction reader, so his book was actually pretty good. Kept me going, and I actually read through the whole thing. Um, I wish that Michael would show up so we can get this interview going, because I am kind of floundering right now without the person on tap. But you know what? No worries. No worries. Screen share. Share. So the guy who I'm supposed to be interviewing, who is slightly late, the book that he is pushing out, or the book that is on his IndieGoGo campaign, is called Mortal Worlds. It has 5 days left, and it has a fixed goal of 10,000. He has 695. I don't know if he's gonna do a Critias and just shut it down and restart at a later time, or if he's gonna extend it. Uh, wish he was here so he could tell us. But anyway, so I'll just go through his campaign so it's not a waste of anybody's time, mine or yours. He has a $10 digital copy of Mortal Worlds. It's a 72-page comic. And he has a $20 tier for the for a copy of a physical copy. He has a $25 tier for a signed physical copy, and a $30 gets you signed by Michael and a 8x2 metal bookmark. That's pretty nice. It's got a sketch pack for 35, one signed copy, one headshot. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, he needs the link again. Let me get him going. I apologize for the inconvenience. Oh, I just, well, nothing new. Now everybody knows the link. But anyway, if y'all hang tight with me, hopefully Michael will be joining us shortly, and we can get this going. Apologize again for the inconvenience. There's a big time difference between where I'm at and where he's at. So even though it is 9:05 here, I believe it's like 2 in the morning over there. So we'll get this rolling. and hopefully he'll be joining soon. Sometimes these things happens when you go live. And for those of you, there he is.
Hi.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Hi. Sorry, we just finished up with John Mayland there, and I was clicking the link, and it was a photo, so it wasn't working. I was a bit confused there for a sec. Thanks for having
No problem. Hey, no problem. We were just we kind of started out without you, but hey,
thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, this is Caroline as well. She's a co-creator of Mortal Worlds, so hopefully you'll be happy to have us both to have a chat about this.
That would be awesome, Caroline. Nice to meet you. My name is Jimmy. I'm the host of this small but friendly channel, EOT's Arts.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, how you doing? Let me start closing down some windows and get situated, and then we're gonna get right into this. Awesome. So you just got off of the John Mayland. How was it?
Yeah, it went well. It was a kind of a masterclass, as some people mentioned in the chat there as well. He had some really interesting kind of in-depth points, about how the artwork, could be improved in terms of like being more easy to make out, stuff like that, because stuff about line weights, which is still stuff I'm, getting into, improving on. But it's, really good advice. Overall, you got a really good first impression of it, and you had advice about how to kind of like streamline the IndieGoGo page so that kind of like you load it up more with the kind of like the color work. You actually recommended having none of the black and white stuff and just having finished color work there. But we were discussing we're going to actually be getting a professional colorist in, because we think that that could really make the pages really sing as well.
But we can only do that if we meet the goal. If not, we'd have to look at that next time.
Well, yeah, we might be able to get some kind of demo pages up there. Hopefully, with the it'll be the same colorist.
Sounds awesome.
What
John
do you
is a
think,
big
Jimmy? Have you had a look?
I've had a look. I'm not a professional artist on the John Mayland level. I'm just kind of a hobbyist.
But no, just as a, what do you think? What did you like it?
Yes, there are some of the artwork I did like, as a matter of fact. And some of the artwork, like going past that one right beneath the first black and white, that vehicle, the below concept for the hero's Jackal ATAX altering attack vehicle.
Yeah,
that one was a little fuzzy for me.
Yeah,
I was like,
the Jackal.
Yeah, that one was a little bit fussy for me. But I'm a big Halo fan, so I kind of made it out. It's like, yeah, I get it. The rest of the artwork looks okay to me. It looks fine. Even the black and white stuff. But the thing is, you all got to understand that as a fan, as long as the story and the artwork flows, I'm gonna be happy. John Mayland is a professional. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he has a different eye, and in his eye, of course, will be more on the aesthetics of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So he's kind of, his job is like, as a storyteller, is to make really tell the story through the art, get the writer's vision up there on the page. He does an amazing job of that.
He does. He's an amazing artist, and then you have to look at that. And you have to take that also into consideration, the many years he's had drawing and the many lessons that he's already learned that young artists like myself and you guys, have yet to encounter and have yet to learn. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's a growth and a development that has to happen in any career as you progress and mature. But I mean, for me, the artwork is fine. I can make it out. The one thing was that Jackal was a little fussy for me. I think it wasn't that it was fussy. I think it was just the perspective might have been a little off for me. But it's
it's like kind of a weird looking design. So I wanted to try and get it kind of like side on, so you got a good impression of it in kind of 3D. But it was the first attempt I think I made to do it as a three-dimensional representation. It originally was drawn like kind of just completely kind of like 2D side on and stuff. So it came out a little different than I expected. But I'm okay.
But what, that happens. I'm struggling. I'm doing a commission for a Poison Ivy, and what I have in my mind and what comes out on the paper is two different things. And I refuse to send it out until I get it the way I want it. So I've drawn it like 8 times. I mean, so it happens, people.
Oh yeah.
but you know, other than that, you know, comparatively speaking, for your, I'm assuming that this is your freshman outing.
Yeah, yeah.
Then
Kind of debut project.
Yeah, so for that, you know, I think I'm not upset, you know, at all.
That's nice to hear.
I'm not upset at all for
What,
being a
what
freshman
are you
project.
interested in? Are you into kind of like sci-fi or fantasy, or what's the kind of genres that you're into?
You know, and that's funny, right? I am a straight up superhero guy. Like I like superhero comics. But I've been expanding my mind and back in some of these different type of genres since the comicscape community came out. Just because I want to support the independent artists, you know, I like to help out where I can. So even though some like oh Nasser, please don't be mad if you hear this stream. I bought your book, but I have not read it because I'm not into horror stories. But I did buy it. I just haven't read it. But I did flip through the art, and his artist is pretty good. I liked his artwork.
Yeah, I think the art really sells it. I'm not familiar with what the writing's like, but you know, I hear he's pretty good. You know, he knows he's quite an accomplished novelist, from my understanding. He's written a lot of stuff, so it really lends itself well, I think, to you know, this genre he clearly loves. I think this you know, this imprint, Secret Comics, but yeah, it's definitely its own thing. So I guess that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to carve our own niche, you know, with this thing, kind of like a mishmash.
Okay. So we have some activity on the chats. Mrs. Ortiz is on. That's my lovely wife supporting me. Thank you, baby. We got Psychology Nerd. She is also a avid Comicsgate supporter. Thank you for joining.
And I have a psychology and counselling degree.
There you go. You meet people. Big Fighter, who's my moderator, and he says he is a classic horror genre fan. I can't ever pronounce that. It's the Puerto Rican in me. But Michael, so let's go ahead and get started. I already introduced myself. My name is Jimmy, just in case. And this is my channel, Ortiz Arts. And tonight's guest is going to be the creator of Mortal Worlds, Michael. And I'm assuming your wife?
Yeah. How you doing, everyone?
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And I'm thinking, I was explaining to the chat earlier that I believe that there's a big time difference. I think it's like 1 or 2 in the morning over there.
Yeah, that's right. It's 2:15. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I hope they didn't fall asleep.
No, we didn't.
We are totally up for it.
Are you guys 5 or 6 hours ahead?
It's 9:13 over here.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
In the evening. Yeah. All right. Well, Michael, and I caught, you said your name and I missed it. I'm sorry, man. Caroline. Michael and Caroline. So here's your job, right? Get me hyped on your book. What is Mortal Worlds? What is it about?
Yeah, Mortal Worlds is yeah, as I said, it's like a sci-fi fantasy. It's kind of like set in a kind of alternate Earth. This world is called Aldar, and it's in a lot of trouble because you know, there's this energy source which the world has discovered quite some time ago. Imagine like you know, the medieval age of Earth, but they discovered kind of space age technology because they found a kind of like you know, almost an infinite power source that they could use to both power themselves, but also vehicles and starships. You know, there's all kinds of stuff which the technology boom that we saw in here in the industrial age and then the digital age. Imagine that all occurred maybe in hundreds of years earlier. So you know, what you're left with is this kind of this world which is you know, still got some kind of elements of almost a feudal, you know, kind of rivalry and stuff like that. But what it's just been recovering from these invasions of other worlds, including these kind of Sky Raider type pirates who have wanted to kind of seize its resources. You know, this energy source called the Charge for themselves. They managed to fend them off, but they used this Slayer program to do it, which is like this kind of prototype super soldier project. But in the end, they realized that these guys, they were largely interested in following their own path. They didn't want to take orders. They were almost like too powerful to control. So they decided, well, maybe not the best idea, but we got to create something to overpower and contain these guys and get them back on the, back on message. So they created these overlords, which are superior on kind of almost every level to the Slayers. They're kind of like the next stage in of soldier, and they are much more obedient to their military masters. And so what happens with a lot of these Slayers? A lot of them have kind of like gone off world, but they've been hunted down. But there are a few who kind of have been, there's leverage over them, such as like, they may have friends or family, stuff like that. So they're kind of like, they've settled down and they kind of act almost more as security for the very kind of facility, the laboratory where they're created. But there's heavy stuff going down because these overlords, they've got plans that endanger the whole planet and, quite potentially the whole universe. So obsolete as they are.
Through the manifestation of a multidimensional dark god.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, that's so. These Slayers, or it's almost like they're coming out of retirement now. They're going to take the job on of overcoming the people who've kind of previously overpowered them, so that they can take down this dark god, which is it's a big ask.
Nice. So Caroline, you have anything to add?
I think Mike summed it up quite well, so I'll let him go with it. But I'd have given a shorter synopsis, to be honest. But
no. We want you to sell your book as best you can. I mean, there's no time limit for me. I don't have any other guests or anything like that lined up for the evening. And when I do these shows, these live streams, I want the creator and the artist and the writer, to really just sell the book, be as enthusiastic as they can be, and just go all out. There's no rush on my part. Maybe on you guys because it's so late over there.
No, we love talking about this stuff. So the more you're happy to hear us talk, the better for me. Definitely.
Hey, I'm here for you guys.
Up as a synopsis. Basically, this dark god manifests from another universe. And the paradox is that they can kill the dark god, but if they do, he's got a dead switch that eliminates all of creation, and they have to find a way around that.
Yeah,
that sums it up.
It's kind of like it's got the perfect defense mechanism. Essentially, its life force. You remember we were talking earlier about this power called the charge, which was like the stuff that kind of powers these these kind of superhumans. But this kind of being is the kind of like the source of all this. And if you actually took out this being, that would not only take out all these, these combatants who are trying to take it down, it would also take out everybody, because it's almost like every life force is connected in some way, on a really kind of deep level to this being. It's like almost like the originating life force, for every being in the universe. And soon, when the heroes discover this, they think, oh my, how do we take this thing down? If we actually jeopardize everybody, including ourselves, attempting to do so. It's like, can we negotiate with it? Can we overpower it, contain it? But it's already been banished a long time ago by these beings called the Light Bearers, who are kind of long gone now, and they don't have anything like this power. They're pretty much just like souped up human beings.
Right.
But I guess the human element in it is the head super slayer. They kidnap his son and they force him into deciding whether or not to release this entity onto this plane.
Yeah. Well, you see, the main character is this guy called Cade Saiga, and he's kind of like a houseboy. He used to be a big kind of legendary swordsman, but now he's kind of like left kind of on the... He does cleanup operations, mop up, and patrols this facility where the overlords are making their own plans. And the reason why he kind of like cows down to them is because his own son is on the premises, and he has trouble. He has these kind of premonitions about something pretty big goes down. So he's almost like in a secure ward, this kid. His wife, he works for the same facility, and she's like, don't make waves. We're going to be in trouble. We can't get away from these guys. We can have an okay life as long as we don't mess around with them. Even though they, they're up to all kinds of trouble. All around the galaxy. What they want is to ensure that they have total monopoly on this energy source, because they need as much of it possible for their end game. which to bring in this this entity which they secretly worship, because you know, they've had access to secret records of this world, you know, of the ancient history, which has kind of been heavily suppressed. But what it comes down to is that there was this being that ruled the world a long time ago. It was fought off by kind of humans who were, you know, kind of like far more kind of, I guess, spiritual and able to contain it at the time. But when they got rid of it, they vanished too, because they gave all of their kind of power, their life force, to send it down into you know, kind of into the underworld. But now these overlords, they've brought it back. You know, they believe that it's destined to be the ultimate ruler of everything, that there's no evading it. It's just a matter of time before we all have to bow before it and you know, be its kind of you know, it's enslaved kind of you know, almost like a, you know, everybody's a province, everyone's a shard of this thing, and it's you know, it's destined to be in control.
I guess the thing is, you either give up your soul to this thing or you fight for your soul.
Yeah, you know, so this thing, there's no half measures with it. It's this being, and it's called Risa. It's and it kind of like in this world, it kind of stands, roughly translated, the Alpha and the Omega. It's considered by its disciples to be the be and end all, the final end game of all evolution. So we've all been just kind of a pathway towards bringing this thing back so that it can you know, complete its mission, which is to dominate everything.
Are we making sense, Jimmy?
Well, you are. I get mesmerized by your guys' accents.
Oh, well, if that's in our favor, we'll keep talking.
No, it does make sense, but there's a lot. It seems like you have more than one book's worth of story right there. So,
yeah, sure.
So is this all going to be part of one book? Are you planning on releasing a series?
First book is, yeah, Carolyn, you're going to say something?
No, I was just waiting for Jimmy to finish. I didn't hear what he said.
No, okay. Let me say again. I'm sorry. I get closer to the mic. No, it sounds like you have a lot of legend. You know, there's a lot of story to this, and I was wondering if this is all going to be in the first book, or if you're making a series of books to outline this whole trajectory.
There's a possibility, but essentially a lot of this, pretty much all of this ground is covered in. It's a 72-page book, and a lot of the stuff that I'm telling about, it's kind of like what leads up to it. It's kind of alluded to in the story, but it doesn't take a huge, you know, amount of time in it. We're pretty much straight into the action straight away when the lead up to this being arriving on Earth. And how the Slayers, essentially kind of a ragtag group now, but Cade Saiga is doing his best to kind of like bring his old comrades back together, even though they're kind of being kind of cast to the wind. You know, and a lot of them are on the run. They're like fugitives from you know, this dominant planet. And they're kind of reluctant to get involved, but they realize, you know, that it's like it's everything at stake. They don't have much choice. You know, they've got to come back with him. You know, they're kind of like a old captain, and yeah, they're going to do everything they can to take it out. But it's almost like an impossible mission, because this being has a legion at its own command, and these are kind of where I wanted to take this, was to have I'm a big fan of you know, aliens and beings like cryptids, and I think that's like the beings called ultra terrestrials. It's like a kind of more of a little known kind of form of close encounters that people have, where they believe it's kind of like beings from other dimensions and stuff like that. So it was kind of fascinated me, that stuff, and I thought I'd love to see a comic where all this kind of like all this stuff meets, and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, that takes care of my next question, and which was, how did you come up with the concept? It seems like I already know how you came up with the concept. Carolyn, you have anything to add to that?
I think Carolyn's just popped out for a second, but
that's fine.
I think I can answer that. But you see, I have always been you know, had a fascination with stuff like myths and legends as well, and over time, it's interesting how kind of like a lot of people have reported you know, kind of paranormal encounters, you know, with beings which almost seem to kind of coincide with the ancient tales, you know, the mysteries, you know, Greek myth and Arthurian romance. You know, there's all these kinds of things. Even you know, in America, you know, you've got these tales of you know, they're called the Wendigo. You know, so these like very frightening kind of like paranormal entities that kind of like maybe they're just like they exist just out the corner of your eye, but you know, when they're kind of the stars in the right alignment, you might be unfortunate enough to encounter one, and you know, then you know, you could be in big trouble.
Right. So let me ask you something. You know, how's your experience been? You know, putting yourself out there, putting your work out to the world. What were your challenges? You know, did you have anything you had to overcome?
Well, yeah, I mean, the kind of the writing and drawing process itself has been, you know, very enjoyable, but you know, it's been challenging as hell as well, because it's a learning process. I've been working on making sure that my kind of like my characters they look kind of hopefully more natural. My drawing used to be pretty stiff when I used to do it more as like a kind of a hobby, just you know, trying to like figure out, you know, how I could break into, you know, the comics industry. And over time, I realized that there was a certain type of look I wanted to capture, which was like a kind of a fusion of some of my favorite artists, but still something that you know, stands out on its own. So I've got influences like you know, the Simon Bisley, Brian Bolland. They're a couple of British artists, you know, who, you know, I've always been a huge fan of since my teens. But there's also I've always been into people like Frank Miller, and you know, they're American artists. You know, John Romita Jr. You know, I love the way he kind of like a lot of people don't really like his faces, but I think that's a small price to pay for, you know, doing such dynamic art. And you know, so dynamism has like always been a kind of big focus of me, trying to capture that.
And on a personal level, working with your husband late into the night when you have creative disagreements, that can be a pretty big challenge.
You know, and I was going to ask you about that. How is it having a husband and wife team? I know, and I'm going to say that you have full-time jobs as well.
Sure, yeah.
Working full-time jobs, coming home, and then another 8 to 10 hours working on these books. Because I draw, so I know how long it takes to do some of these things. Like, it's not a quick process.
No, not at all. Yeah, we have to organize our time, pretty strictly, because of course there's only so much time in the day. We kind of stagger the schedule so that sometimes I'll be doing just like the artwork, and Caroline may be working on some of the script, or editing some stuff that she thinks could be done tighter, and we feed back to each other as we're both working. So sometimes we'll be both at the same desk, hashing stuff out. Other times, one will be in one room and one in the other, and and we'll cross check with each other, say, how's this going? This is looking okay. This could do some tweaking. And over time, we kind of gelled. Over time, it wasn't straight away, but we became a pretty tight team. Over time, and we kind of like started being on the same wavelength with everything. And so what you're seeing now is kind of was like the final kind of outcome of that.
Or so far, but online shopping becomes your best friend.
Yeah.
Online shopping does help a lot, especially for our supplies and stuff like that. I experienced that as well.
Yeah, there's just so little time, and you're kind of segmenting it out. And there's also your friends and your family and all the other stuff you have to do.
Yeah, it kind of like confuses some of my, my family that this is the kind of stuff I wish to spend my time with. But it's it's a labor of love, and they can see the results. They can see, oh well, I get why he does this. It's because it's clearly this is what gives him real purpose, and I hope that shines through. I hope that for both of us, it is a labor of love. It's a work that we've always wanted to share with the world, and we are so grateful for the people who've supported us so far, including yourself. Given an opportunity to get the world interested and excited about this, and wherever it goes, we are certainly determined to get it published, and to get it seen, get it out there.
One thing that I notice, I listen to a lot of comic skaters, is you're incredibly generous, Jimmy, with just listening and drawing people out. You haven't really said it. Tell us a bit about your own stuff.
Well, I try to make this about you guys because I don't have anything out there. But sure, you want to get to know me, that's fine. I'm married. My wife is downstairs supporting me on the channel right now. So this year, about 6 to 8 months ago, I decided that I wanted to create a comic book project, and I started drawing again. And then I ran into the Comicsgate community. I ran into Ethan Mess, looking at videos, to get my art up to speed, and whatnot. I ran into Ethan Van Sciver's videos, and then I started looking at this Comicsgate community, and I started liking what they were saying as far as the politics as a backdrop is fine, but politics as the main protagonist is not. And I was like, yeah, I kind of like that idea. I like, with the way the world is right now, some of the politics I really don't agree with, and I really don't want to read about them when I'm trying to have fun or escape in my comic books or my books or whatever the case may be, my TV, my movie. I just wanted to go back to the 90s before everything kind of started sliding downhill, as I would like to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at them, and then I said, well, I'm gonna support some of these guys. I'm gonna buy a couple of the books here and there, 18 of them so far. You're probably gonna be 19.
Wow.
Speaking of 19, you have the two of the people listening just backed you.
Thank you
Thanks
to those
so much.
people very much.
So
yeah, Jimmy, I agree with you, because to me, I like the little spare time I have to be escapist. And I also think there should be choice. If you want to read Marvel, IDC's book, whatever, IDW's books, but just to have enough choice there's someone out there for something out there for everyone.
Yeah. Why chase away your main customers just because you want to kind of like preach to them how they should be living their lives? I mean, if they really feel the need to do that, I'm sure there are other ways than just like putting it in the comics where people have been giving their hard-earned money over to to have some enjoy a different world, characters, they can relate to and, be excited about, root for. And it's kind of hard to do that if the comic is spending most of its time telling you that, you're a bad person, if you voted a certain way, or if you kind of like you've got a mindset of a certain way. It's like that. It's kind of shows bad faith. It's kind of a shame that it's gotten to that.
I think people have to be free to think and decide for themselves.
Yes.
And to allow that freedom and space. Okay, you like that, I like this. I think this. It's not about being dictated to.
Yeah, the readership pretty much probably already knows its own mind about a lot of things in the world, and so that's not what they're turning to comics to be re-educated. They're turning to them because they want to have a good time. They want fun, and this is the thing that I think that too many comics have forgotten now in the comics industry. It's like the emphasis should be on fun, not on changing the world, by changing the reader. The reader can pretty much make up their own mind, how they want to think, but the entertainment that they come to them for, that's the job of the editorship and the writers and the artists. Mainstream comics, maybe a few more kind of indies who have also kind of joined this kind of crusade of trying to ensure that the right message is given to people, and certain other people are kind of ostracized or told, your money is not good enough for us, which is I can't understand that at all. The readership and their money should always be good enough.
Yes. In a world today where everything is connected, you get enough news and enough of everything. You hear 24/7 about whatever political outcry is at the day, 24/7. And when someone like me, I don't really watch the news that much, but when someone like me decides that he wants to read a comic book, like I was just saying before you guys came on, I was trying to kill some time. The Flying Sparks finally arrived, and I read the book. And I'm not a science fiction reader, but the book is a superhero book, and I've never read any of John De La Rosa's works. But when I read his Flying Sparks, the story flows so nicely. I actually finished the book in one sitting, and it's a 74-page graphic novel. And you're saying, well, that's not much, but for someone like me to sit down to even a graphic novel to 74 pages in one sitting is a lot, because I get bored and I'll just move on, and I'll come back to it later.
It's like a fast-paced book,
Yeah, so the pacing was nice, and usually for me, because I'm partial to the art, I'll flip to the book and look at the art.
I like the art a lot. Who's the artist on that?
Oh, I don't shoot. I don't have it. I know that John Malin did the cover.
Yeah, he did an amazing cover for that. I remember,
Yeah, I
the
don't remember exactly
superheroine.
who
She's the main
did the
character.
cover. Let me
Is that the name of the
see.
character? Flying
Yeah,
Sparks?
her name is Metagirl. The book is Flying Sparks.
Mhm.
And if you give me 1 second, somewhere in here, I have the creative team. Just give me 1 second. Flying Spark. And her name is actually Chloe, but then she's Metagirl. So, Chloe is her civilian identity, and Metagirl is her superhero identity. And then the book's name is Flying Sparks because of her weapons, I guess. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, she
So,
flies as well, doesn't she?
yeah, she has. I don't want to give it out the information for the book. There's a
No,
lot of
we don't want
little
spoilers. Man.
there's a lot of little things, idiosyncrasies behind everything. But she does fly, but it's not a natural. It's more of a mechanical flight than a natural
Oh,
superpower.
right.
Yeah, no,
That's interesting.
we mustn't give
Well, no,
spoilers out.
Oh, no. That's the cover, isn't it? She's flying on the cover.
Yes,
so
yes,
That's
yes.
not a spoiler.
The story is by John De La Rose. The art is by Jetro Morales. The colors are by Shannon Ho. The letters are by James Reed. And
Yeah,
of
I
course,
noticed the color I really like as well. The coloring on that one's kind of like really pops out for me.
so Shannon Ho is the colorist, and of course, the cover was done by Mr. John Malin, who seems to be on everybody's book.
Yeah, quite rightly so.
Seems to be on
Yeah.
everybody's book. Everybody
wants a piece of John Malin in their book, I think.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you if it was a solo project, but I already know that your lovely wife Carolyn is part of the project. So who takes on the big? Now you say you both write and one draws. Who does what the most? Like whose task is it to write more often than not, and whose task is it to draw more often than not?
Well, I don't draw. I write more. I've done quite a lot of writing when we set out the script, and I'll be doing a lot more. We've also got pipeline, and so I tend to do more writing and kind of concept stuff.
Yeah, we kind of hash ideas out together, but when it comes to writing, a lot of the time Karen will be like, actually at the keyboard. I'll be kind of like coming up with ideas from our notes, some of it off the top of my head, and she'll feed back to me. Yeah, I think that we can use some of that, or maybe she'll add something to it which she thinks will make it a bit more impactful. So it's very much a collaborative process, I'd say, on the writing. And then even sometimes when we're doing that, I may do a few sketches as well to kind of like get the idea down visually as well of like what we're trying to come up with here. And so it does take time, but it's it's a really enjoyable process, and hopefully that comes out on the page, that the enthusiasm.
Or will do.
Yeah.
Well,
and I do a lot of editing as well, because I have to kind of edit him down a bit, because he could probably write a 1,000-page book if I let him.
I could easily write 1,000 words where like 10 will do. So Caroline kind of reins me in and says, "This is the best bits. We don't need that." And much in the way, Star Wars with George Lucas. His kind of rough cut was kind of like very kind of like maybe off-putting to a lot of people because it was a little slow and jumbled. And I think it was his wife Marcia Lucas, who I believe actually got an Oscar for her editing on that movie. She not only saved it, but she turned it, I think A New Hope, turned it into the masterpiece that so many of us know and love.
Yes, indeed. So what drives you guys to do this?
Well, I mean, for me, I've been a comics lover, since in my teens. Caroline read her own. She was mainly into kind of British comics. There was a lot of those were very popular back in the early 80s, I'd say. And for me, I was very much into Marvel in the kind of mid 80s and DC. I was a huge fan of X-Men at the time, especially Mark Silvestri's run. That just blew me away. He did this kind of like stuff about where the New York was turning into a kind of hell on earth, and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. The dynamism and the power. I hadn't seen stuff like that since Jack Kirby. I wasn't so familiar with Jack back then, but there was kind of an overlap there. It was like almost like Silvestri was the next stage, and then of course we had Jim Lee, who blew everybody away, and you know, still does. And I realized, oh, when I saw, you know, kind of Jim Lee's art, I thought, wow, you know, this is what, you know, a lot of us really want to achieve, you know, something that kind of like really captures this kind of like, you know, this majesty and, you know, of, and action, you know, the emphasis on these comics a lot of the time is more action. It's not about violence. We had this kind of dark age of comics in the kind of like the mid-90s, I guess, as a kind of response to wanting to cash in on stuff like Dark Knight and Watchmen. And I love Watchmen, I love Dark Knight, but I could see that, you know, maybe there was a bit too much emphasis on the, you know, on the violence factor, you know, and you know, gore for its own sake, as opposed to kind of you know, concentrating on the story and let the action flow out of that.
Jimmy, have you ever heard of someone called Alan Moore? He's a British comic book writer.
I'm gonna say no, just because the name doesn't ring a bell, but it doesn't mean that I may not have read something he wrote.
It's worth checking out. I mean, as a writer, I think he's brilliant. He's very detailed. He's very evocative. I'm currently reading his book Jerusalem at the moment, and it's almost like beautifully layered jewelry in terms of writing, if you know what that means.
He came from a comics background, but then in the last few years he kind of turned to novel writing because I think he decided he wanted to wind down from comics writing. But in his heyday of you know, his stuff like he was doing for British magazine called 2000 AD. There was another one called Warrior, and in the States they brought him over. He started working on stuff like Swamp Thing, and created this character called Constantine, I think it was, who you know, Keanu Reeves starred in the movie adaptation of that. He had some really wild ideas that, you know, kind of like were really, you know, really breakthroughs, I think, in comics writing at the time. And I think a lot of people actually consider him, a lot of people think he was the best writer in comics there's ever been. And, you know, I wouldn't really argue with that. There are other people in the same league, but he's definitely up there for me.
All right, so I looked him up real quick just because I said I may have and may not have, but yes, I do know some of his work. I do know some of his work, and you're right, that guy was phenomenal. Yeah, I had to look him up because I didn't want to be a liar and say, I know who the guy is.
This distinctive looking guy,
and very eccentric. He's the town I was born is a little town in the UK called Northampton, which is where he lives and walks around, and it basically looks like a modern equivalent of Merlin, the Arthurian Merlin.
You could certainly mistake him for kind of like a wizard or something, you know, instead of you know, just like your average human being. But he's very friendly. He's very you know, I've listened to him talk on you know, some YouTube videos and stuff. He's very, you know, his mind works, you know, on such a higher level than mine, you know, because he's able to think in terms of like whole constructed sentences and paragraphs, you know, whereas most of us just think in terms of like, it's more like a stream of consciousness when we talk. And him, it's almost like he's writing a comic or a novel. Even when he speaks, you know, it's like he's amazing to listen to even in that way. But no, he's not for everybody, you know, because he's quite out there, but he certainly influenced a whole lot of the comic industry, especially when it was you know, making it's the most of its amount of its money in the kind of early 90s. I think a lot of people were trying to capture that feeling of you know, the comics have grown up, you know, so they have the kind of the power and the action that we were used to, but also it was giving us something else as well. It was giving us some kind of like some more dramatic weight, and you know, making people raise their game, which you know, some people managed to do that. There were people like Grant Morrison and Neil Gaiman, these guys who kind of like came over from Britain, I think, to, you know, strike it big really in America with their stuff. And they're still, a lot of them are still doing you know, good work as far as I know. So, you know, to be able to even draw stuff that even attempted in any way to you know, capture some of that, you know, it's a real privilege for us.
Well, if you do listen to him, Jimmy, no disrespect, Alan, you have to get past his accent, which even I find hard to understand.
Yeah, he's quite a thick Northampton accent, so it's kind of like you know, it's halfway between a northern accent, you know, like in London.
I'm not sure Jimmy would know that, but I can't think of an American equivalent.
Yeah, but yeah, let's say it's quite unique. Yeah, so it probably takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, I just saw his picture. He definitely looks like a very interesting individual, to
Oh
say the
yeah,
least. But you could tell he's got a light in his eyes for sure. Even
yeah,
from the picture, you can see that there's something there.
yeah,
Yeah, and I was just
yeah.
telling the chat, full disclosure, I only read Marvel comics. I only read Sergeant Rock from DC, so that's why his name was not one that I
Mm.
automatically grasped.
Mm.
But then I saw,
Who's your favorite Marvel title or character?
I, I've had quite a few through my phases, right? So Spider-Man, of course, because I was a teenager when I
Yeah,
started reading comics, and Spider-Man was a very relatable
Mm.
yeah, it was a
character.
staple for me.
Because he was also a teenager going through teenager things, doing teenager things, and being a superhero.
Yeah,
Then I realized I was never going to grow past my current height, which is 5'7". I don't know what that translates to in measurement units for the Europeans,
Yeah,
but it's
5'7".
so I'm not very tall. So then I fell in love with Wolverine.
yeah.
Because Wolverine was a short, stocky, superhero that was representative of short people. So, I felt like I was well represented with Wolverine. Before that and in between that, I love Conan the Barbarian. I'm talking about the old black and white magazines, not the little floppy comics, the big ones
Yeah,
that
I
Mm.
remember those.
they used to print out. I had like all of
John
those
John
things.
Buscema, wasn't it? He was amazing. Did some amazing stuff
Yeah,
on Conan.
those Conan, that's like what, well, excuse me, some of my favorites. Um, I liked Daredevil for a while. I just like the idea of the Daredevil going around. As you can tell, all my except for Conan, maybe all my themes was just I was like
Superheroes.
I wanted to be a hero and do good stuff. I wound up
Yeah,
joining the army instead, but that's neither here nor there. We'll move on past that. um, you know, Daredevil. I really
did
don't
you?
like the anti-hero. Well, Punisher is and then Punisher. When Punisher came out, I was like, whoa, this is so different. It was just so different.
Mm.
And it was a different take. And I
Yeah.
was like,
I
Frank
saw the
Castle.
original concept art, concept sketches for the Punisher the other day, and even then it looked incredible. I think that was John Romita, who was like, I think he was a Daredevil artist for a time as well. But I think he actually came up with at least the visual design of Punisher. He looked almost exactly like we know him now. There was practically no difference. It's just such an iconic image.
Yeah,
Incredible stuff.
yeah. The Punisher was just so different. It was so stark of a contrast, as opposed to all your normal heroes.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that was, he was just killing people. Like, yo, you know what? You're not gonna get a chance to hurt anybody again. It's over
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah,
And
I think
and
it was originally called the Executioner or something. They were going to come up with different names for him, and they settled on the Punisher. But originally, the Executioner. Maybe they figured that was a little bit step too far. But
that was too far. Yeah,
yeah,
and I like the simplicity of his character. He's just got a big old white skull, guns, no superpowers.
yeah,
He's just like an excellent tactician. He's gonna outsmart you. And he outsmarted quite a few people.
yeah,
It was beautiful. Power Man and Iron Fist were also one of my longest read comic books. I just love that
mm,
dynamic. Well, I was a Puerto Rican. I moved to the United States, learning English and going through some things. Being able to see characters from different backgrounds and different races getting along and
mm.
Mm.
doing things
It was-
together just kind of meant a lot to me.
yeah, and of course they were doing that, in the 70s and 80s, and long
Yes.
before then as well. And that some people make out that it's only just started happening, and that people have a problem with that. It's
No, no.
just crazy.
It's been going on for a while.
Yeah. What did you have you been watching the Iron Fist TV show?
I have. Oh man. So I got so many mixed emotions about that. But yeah, I did. And I'll probably binge watch Daredevil when it comes out in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
but I've been watching it. First season was first season.
Mhm.
I think the best, and this goes again to my childhood and my love of Power Man and Iron Fist, or what people call Heroes for Hire. I think the best episode out of everything that's happened so far is on Luke Cage, the Heroes for Hire episode, where him and Danny Rand just go out and bust up the bad guys in the warehouse, and they're working together and they're getting along. I might be the best episode for me as far as the Netflix series is so far.
I think that's what everyone was really waiting for, isn't it? When the guys get together and to become the heroes for hire, that we know from the comics.
Yes, because that is such people underestimate the love that people have for Power Man and Iron Fist, the dynamic that they brought together, and the fact that Misty Knight and Danny Rand were married and they had a child, and the same thing with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and and they were there were two couples that were completely, they were not the norm in the time that this book was written, but they made it work and they made it natural, and it to me, it gave a hope for humanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain.
Very relatable. They weren't just like these kind of like invincible, action heroes. They had emotions, that we could relate to. They had understandable drives, and the first time I encountered these characters myself, they were kind of done in a kind of a passing way. They were more kind of done as portrayed as a more light-hearted manner. I think it was Secret Wars. Wars 2. I don't know if you heard of that. It was like a series in the 80s that Marvel did where they wanted to like cross over all of their characters. So you just got a kind of like a fleeting glimpse of like the whole cast of characters, and one point this superpowered being who can do just about anything called the Beyonder, he encounters them, and they're kind of they're kind of like amazed at what he can do, but at the same time they realize he doesn't really understand the value of anything because he can just do anything. And they're kind of like getting into the idea that because they're the heroes for hire, they're kind of like bounty hunters. They do jobs, and it's for the money. It's about the money, honey. Especially for Luke, but they're trying to tell him, well, there's a reason for money. That it's an exchange, it's a promise of trust, and it's kind of unbreakable thing. It isn't just like paper. It's a promise, and it means something, and it's not just something that keeps people down, like this saying root of all evil. It was actually giving people another take on things, which is you work hard for something, you earn something. That's an achievement. That's something to be proud of.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it now. But to me, Power Man and Iron Fist were just amazing. I don't know, it just because of what I was going through at that time, and my inability to fully speak English, and being being an outsider in the United States, and then seeing a book like that where I saw, because I came to the States in 70s and 80s, and it was not exactly what you call racially untense. There were some things, there were some hangovers, there were and for me, I was a nerd.
You had to kind of be careful with it.
I was a nerd, so I stayed home a lot. I played instrument, I was doing the art stuff, and I reading a lot of comic books, kind of helped me pass the time. But to see in a book, and I don't know, people are going, well, that's it's a book, but it's still, it allows you to escape into another world.
It's a book, but it's more than a book. I think that's fans like us. I think that's something that we all kind of understand and appreciate. It's it's an escape. It's into a different world, and at the same time, it gives you a sense of it gives you a sense of optimism. About everybody. It gives you a sense that we can all be more, and we should always aspire to be more.
Indeed.
I'm glad we've had this conversation, because this is what we're trying to achieve with Mortal Worlds. I mean, this is the aim, whether or not it comes across like that with our first project. But this conversation, encapsulates that perfectly, to inspire people, to let them know they're not alone if they're going through difficult stuff, to be a light into the darkness. I think that's what good comic books are.
And I agree. Of course now they make comic books about everything. But yeah, I mean, a good story. And that's all subjective, but I kind of agree with you, Carolyn. A good story should delineate the good and the bad, and the obstacles that have to be overcome. It's called, I believe, it's called the hero's journey. Writers
Yeah.
call the hero's journey, and I think one of y'all might be able to explain it better than I am. He has where you have the good guy, and he goes through a great loss, and then he has to overcome insurmountable odds. And I think it's a 7-step process, and I don't remember all the steps. But basically, it's what every great story and every great book that has a hero uses.
Yeah.
And
Like a common thread.
yeah, it's like a blueprint, and basically is used in a lot of the books and a lot of the movies that have anything to do with a hero.
Because it can turn out so many ways, but it's still kind of following that kind of path.
Right. And it's like a template. It's like a template. The hero's journey.
I think it's something that everybody responds to. It's like something. It's like it's innate. It's something deep in all of us that we all kind of like say, yeah, that makes sense. That kind of in a way reflects my own, kind of inner life's journey as well. Maybe not literally, but we all kind of like feel ourselves to be, these. We're not just these people who are just doing our day jobs. We feel like we're adventurers in some way in life. And that every day has its challenges, and sometimes it's hard to rise to the occasion. But nevertheless, we go for it. We go all out, or we try to. And it's great to read about characters who kind of represent that. The odds may be stacked, but nevertheless, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to go for it.
And I think there's a trend, sorry, Jimmy, in the modern world to kind of deny the imagination, to say, this is reality. You get on, you go out, you do your job, you pay your bills. And there's a whole movement, I think, where the imagination is kind of relegated. And yet it's from the imagination, I think, the hero's journey grows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I pulled it up real quick. So forgive me, because I don't want to. I want to put out correct information. So the hero's journey starts with a call of adventure, which you covered already when you were talking about your book. You have your guy. He's out there, trying to be unseen, unheard, but he gets called to action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets some kind of supernatural aid, right? He has to pass a threshold or an obstacle or an enemy, right?
Yeah.
Then
and also deal with the enemy within.
Right. Well. It could, and you're right, Carolyn. It just could be the enemy within. It doesn't really specify what the enemy is, but you're right. And then he might pick up a mentor or a helper. He passes the challenges and temptations. He hits that point where now he has been tested by trial by fire, and he is reborn. Not literally, but he's transformed. Whether it's mentally, physically, or whatever. And now, once he's transformed, he reaches that moment of atonement where he feels like everything that he's done, has brought justice to his journey, and then he returns back home. And then the circle continues when the next time he gets called again, and so forth and so on. And
it's just the leap of faith element as well, isn't there? Like you got the moment in Star Wars where Luke is doing that run down the Death Star in the trench run, and he gets that kind of like that call from Ben, who tells him to believe in himself, to trust in the Force, and to not worry about relying on the tech around him. And that's something, I guess, that we all relate to as well, that no matter how much reality may tell us things have got to be this way and you've got to take this path, there's another part of us may say, I believe in myself, or I believe in this person, no matter what, and it's going to see me through. And that gives them that people that extra bit of kind of drive, to take things further and to complete their task, to complete the mission.
It's where you really have to go within and dig deep, I think.
Yeah. Or in the case of your book, you were saying that the protagonist's son was being held as a captive, and that is also a driving force.
Yeah.
you know, to
Yeah.
be able to serve, you know, to overcome everything.
Yeah, to sacrifice it all. Yeah.
And then so you can, you know, get to that.
And to face a terrible choice as well, the one or the many. You know,
Right.
do I act and do what I'm being forced to do to save my son? Or do I think of the many and the terrible kind of tearing choice that is, and the consequences of the choice that he makes?
Yeah.
Indeed. So your book, whether you know it or not, has elements of the hero's journey in it, and it's a
Oh, no, we've
formula
gone
that
for that, Jamie.
you were going for that. Awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I hope it will come out in the writing, you know, when the book comes out.
But I'm talking to you guys, and I know it's super late over there, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and hearing the enthusiasm in both you and your husbands, or you and your wives, whoever's listening first, voice. You know, it really you know, I'm really glad that I got a chance to talk to you guys, and I'm glad that the people watching are able to hear you, and maybe some of the enthusiasm you know, will rub off. Which, speaking of enthusiasm, this is kind of an important question. Your campaign is going to be up in a few days, if I'm not mistaken.
It's already up, Jimmy.
Oh, it's already up?
We're about to extend it because we made the mistake of kind of putting it up there because we were so new before we'd done all the kind of pre-promotion.
Right.
So it's got 4 days left. I think it's made $800, and we want 10,000 to publish it, get it out there. So we're going to extend it in 4 days' time for another 30 days.
Go for 60.
Well, I think that the 60 is the max. I think, isn't it?
Can you go for 60? But we've
no. So I was listening to another person in the stream earlier, and they said that go for the max because sometimes they'll short you days.
Mm-hmm.
So go for the max. If they let you go for 60, go for 60.
Sure.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So someone was saying in one of the streams earlier, and they said they got tricked, that they went to extend it. Instead of getting a full 30 days, they only got extra 20 days. So they say go for the max. Whatever the max they say the max is, just go for it.
I think they do. I think they offer 60. So yeah.
So
thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks so much.
Look, I listen to all the streams. Okay, like I said, I'm a big fan of the community, and I try to because I want to eventually publish my own book. So I'm learning from. I'm interviewing you, but I'm learning from you, and I hear other streams.
We love the streams. It's just been such a revelation. I think it's for us. It started. I started listening to Zach and to Ethan. At the time, Ethan was doing more his kind of live stream of his drawing classes and his critiques, which is really interesting. But then he also kind of like branched out into this other stuff, about current culture and events, which is like just fascinating look at stuff, which I haven't seen really before done in that way. And the same with Zach, he's just he's just got such a way with words, the humor, it just kind of like just shines through everything. It's certainly no surprise they have the followings that they have.
Yes, indeed. And the next thing I was going to bring up is, I don't know if you heard of Critias. He's the writer of Detective Debt.
Yeah.
His first
he's matched his goal, I think, so far, isn't he? He's gone over the top there.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Critias. His first campaign didn't meet anything. His first campaign failed, and he relaunched. So, and now it was successful. So what I'm bringing that up to say, extend your campaign to the max, right?
Sure. Yeah, gonna do it.
And allow people, to see your interviews with John Malin and see this interview. Let them hear your enthusiasm.
Totally.
And then hopefully you can make that 10K stretch goal.
Oh, totally. We'd love that.
I asked you this earlier, but since he's on the chat or she's on the chat, I don't know. Primark Sanguinius wants to ask what inspired him to make the comic book, to be a comic book creator. I'm sorry.
What inspired me?
Yes.
Yeah. I think when I was growing up, I was such a huge fan of people like Brian Bolland and Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee. These guys were just breaking so much new ground in terms of like the classical musculature and dynamism and the way they were able to do their composition and framing. It was stuff that I don't think the world has really seen since the days of Jack Kirby, and it was such an exciting time. I think it was like the late 80s, early 90s. You had these guys who were just coming from Marvel and setting up shop with Image, stuff like that. Even Todd McFarlane, they had such unique kind of looks to what they were doing, and it all worked. It all worked beautifully, and it was definitely no surprise they were as successful as they were, and still are. And when I was looking at those, I was thinking, I'd love to be able to develop my own style that maybe has influences from all these kinds of guys, but still is its own thing. And so that's what I've been, practicing over the years, trying to do, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I also want to do my own writing, and so did Caroline. Caroline was also, a novelist. She's written some material as well. In fact, I wrote a novel myself, and maybe a little bit, even if it was a kind of like a sci-fi fantasy thing, apocalyptic dystopia thing. And a little bit of that has found its way into Mortal Worlds as well. But Mortal Worlds is definitely my kind of, both of us, our life's passion, if you like, certainly at this moment. And we're definitely going to get this out one way or the other. And, IndieGoGo definitely looks to be, a kind of route of choice. So any support we get from people, donations to get us to hit that mark, it is just incredible, and we are just so grateful to everyone who supported us so far.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. Thank you to everyone who supported us so far, and for having us on your show, Jimmy. We'd love to come back on again and shoot the breeze with you. It's been really enjoyable. It's only our second live stream.
Yeah.
Well, it was really intense.
You made it so, enjoyable for us. We didn't know what to expect, but you've just been great.
No, my live streams are more for information, more informative, and more just to get to know the artist. And excuse me, our question, but do you guys think that black and white can sometimes be more beautiful than colored artwork? You know what, Primax Sanguineous, I am colorblind, so I'm going to say yes. But let me defer to our guest. The question was, do you guys think that black and white can sometimes be more beautiful than colored artwork?
I certainly think that it can. There was one comic book in particular, a graphic novel, that was a huge influence on me when I was still in high school. It was, have you ever heard of a character called Judge Dredd?
Oh, yeah, I love Judge Dredd.
Yeah, so there was this graphic novel and it was illustrated by this guy who's a kind of almost like a classical illustrator, a guy called Brian Bolland. I think he still does covers for comic books these days, but he used to do sequential art, a lot of it, in the kind of the 80s. And this book just blew me away. It was Judge Dredd and this arch nemesis that he had called Judge Death. And so there was like this equivalent of these, these bad guys from another dimension who kind of all, they've got these kind of rotted out uniforms and these kind of hellish costumery and helmets and regalia that remind you of, like, they're kind of like almost like police force from hell. But the beauty, the technique that he used, the feathering and the control of his, I couldn't believe when I heard that he actually used a brush. To me, that just seemed impossible. It looked like it was it almost had this kind of woodcut effect. So I was trying to achieve that when I was trying to get into college. And I was a huge Brian Bolland fan. He ended up doing this comic, The Killing Joke, which I think they only just recently they made an animated version of that, DC Comics, which is pretty well received as well. But the original art was something that I was trying to at the time emulate when I was about 16 or 18 or so. And I never quite got there, but what I did end up doing was, developing a black and white style, which I realized, oh, this is so much fun, and I'm improving in ways that I didn't expect. And I thought, I'd stick at it, and surely enough, I developed a kind of style which, I guess doesn't look quite like anybody else's. So, I'm quite happy with that.
Awesome. And before I ask that question, so I try to make, I lost my train of thought, but I wanted to answer the chat question. Yeah, I try to make my streams this is like my fourth interview. I try to make my streams something kind of like a laid back, people talking over coffee. In your case, tea, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm more of a coffee man myself, but yeah,
Yeah,
we do like a tea.
yeah. You know, just kind of relax, talk. I try to keep the world news and politics out of it. I just try to keep it about the creator and their creation, about them, you know, and try to make it a little personal so people get to know you. I think that if people get to know the artist and the creator and see the commonalities that they may have with said creator or artist, that creates a link or a bond, you know,
Sure.
and then that link and that bond leads to maybe back in the book or keeping an eye out to
Sure.
maybe back a book down the road, you know, if they can't right now. And it creates an interest and people will want to follow, you know,
Yeah,
and keep tuning in, you know, and
totally
try to
agree.
follow what's going on with that person. You know, where are they going? Are they still writing books? And that's what I like to do, you know, and because I think it's important, you know, and I like the comics gay community, but but it's not just to the comics gay community. I like independent comic book artists. The guy that I interviewed before you, um, uh, he's publishing through Rising Sun Comics. He himself is a Comicsgate guy, but his publishing company is not.
Yeah.
So I look at him as an independent creator.
Yeah, that's what I really appreciate that. Not everybody necessarily wants to kind of just be associated with one particular tag. You know, they may be supportive of it, and they want to see it do really well. But it's comics is a huge medium, and definitely when people just aim for entertainment and fun, action, there could be humor there, but keeping in mind that that's the goal. You want the entertainment factor to be the bottom line, and that's what makes people want to spend their hard-earned money. And so there's a lot of people who deserve that money, who definitely want to entertain, and there's some people who seem to kind of not even want to earn what money is out there, because they think that they somehow know better than the customer, and it's doesn't seem to be something that really is working. A lot of people are getting put off by that in a big way.
Yeah, that flying close to the sun with wax wings is what I call it. You know,
Yeah,
that they
Yeah.
think the Icarus syndrome.
yeah,
The name escaped me for a second, but I knew it came to me. It's an Icarus syndrome where they think because they are working for X or Y company that has so much clout that by proxy they wield that same power, and that's not the case because they can be replaced at any moment.
yeah.
And
I
that
think they,
that foolhardiness that they show is what causes the alienation of the consumers who are the ones that are paying the money, like you were saying.
yeah,
And then what I find in the Comicsgate community, I'll take Donald DeLay for an example. I don't know if you know Donald DeLay.
yeah. Brutus the Badass.
Yeah.
I think it's
So I kind of started doing my artwork around the time where Donald got kind of ostracized by his coworkers at Image. So I kind of so my Twitter account is really young, and I saw his arc. You know what he went through, and how he got just really just pushed. You know, out of the industry.
do you think it's can be because of their art style that they started to be kind of like be pushed away, or a certain kind
Well,
of attitude, or
I think with Donald, it was just something so bizarre. He said that Zach was not racist,
Mhm.
and that was it. He said, "Yeah, I don't think that Zach is racist or a misogynist or a bigot. I
Mhm.
think he just has his own opinion about comics in a story."
And
That's
they'd
all he
already
said.
made their minds up, that they say he is, and anyone who disagrees is like kind of history, and
Right.
that's no
And
room for
Donald was in
difference.
the middle. Yeah, and Donald was in the middle of doing Death of Love, and it was a nice book. The book wasn't a bad book. Death of Love by Image was Donald DeLay was the artist, and it was a fun little book. Um, and I bought it because of Donald. He was talking about it before he got, completely pushed out. And then they were like, you're done in the industry. And the Comics Gate community kind of embraced him. And then he decided to do Brutus. And and that's like one of the interviews I did. And he looked like, his life was at a cross point where he didn't think he was going to be able to provide for his family anymore.
Oh,
you
dear.
know
That's awful.
till he picked up till the Comics Gate community embraced him and said, hey, make your own book, we'll back you. And
Yeah, he got together with
and
Nasser, didn't he?
say again.
Got together with Nasser, I think, for the Brutus book.
Yeah,
He's doing
he
that.
collaborated with Nasser. Nasser is a hustler. Nasser will get you.
Yeah, he does a lot of work. He does a lot of writing. I hear he's he's such a young guy yet. He just got a lot of work already. In his a lot of feathers in his cap. I think he's going to really go places.
Yeah, just give him time. Give him time. So when I saw that, I was like, man, that's terrible. I don't know. I see, for you guys, you're breaking in, and so you're looking at a different angle than someone that was there and actually published, and then gets their source cut off. Now, I'm not saying your journey is not difficult. It is a difficult journey to break in. Don't get me wrong. So I feel sometimes, and I want to help out as much as I can. And so Donald is now, what, his campaign is at 25,000 or 30,000, I think.
Yeah.
And even though people are making fun of him from the outside, saying that that's nothing, he went on the record to say that right there will pay him more per page as an artist than he was making at Image. Now that's saying something.
Yeah,
That's saying
gives
something.
everybody something to believe in, because people trying to control what you say or what you're allowed to say, and it can be hurtful. And I guess Don would have had friends that was it Marvel, Image, yeah, and people he respected and felt that respected him, and then all of a sudden to find out that he's kind of like expendable just because he's prepared to defend somebody else's opinion. It should have nothing to do with whether he's qualified to work with Image. The quality of the work should be the be and end all. Is he a good enough artist? If the answer is yes, and his art sells, that should be end of story.
I'm going to go on the limb and say they're going to regret that decision, because his book looks amazing.
Yeah, I imagine they're already regretting it.
Yeah, his book
it lays down a challenge for people. They really, people like Don, they picked up the gauntlet, they said, and they ran with it. And they said, well, look at me now, look what I'm doing. And showing other people, this is what you can achieve.
Yeah.
And sorry, Jimmy, I was just going to say it's extremely courageous to be a trailblazer when you're facing not being able to feed your family. That's quite something.
Yeah, he I think on one of the streams he was saying that he was about to become a Lyft driver. That he was going to put down the pencil and become a Lyft driver so he could support his family, till the Comics Gate community embraced him and he was able to move forward with his own project.
Yeah.
So
you can't let that talent go to waste.
And that goes for everybody. Like, what you're doing is not easy either. You're trying to break into an industry that's not easy to break into, and you're doing it as an independent creators and independent writers. But this is the time. If you're gonna do it, this is the time to do it. There's so many people just coming out forward and taking advantage of the Comicsgate movement and moving under the banner. Whether they are or not, that's indifferent. But the fact that they're trying to create books and move forward, that's awesome. I think anytime that you can produce pressure on the industry that thinks they have a chokehold and a monopoly on the population, and you can create an alternative and show them that, hey, you don't treat us right, we'll go somewhere else, because the economy, the power of the dollar is actually one of the most powerful motivators. It's all about making money for these people, and if they're not making money, they'll have to change their ways.
Yeah, I think the readership really understands when they look at something and it's made with love, and enthusiasm, that carries a book through. People respond to that, and if if a book is lacking those qualities, and it's kind of other things are used as a substitutes for those things, like having an agenda and trying to maybe manipulate people in terms of their mindset, their political mindset. People have there's enough media and social media and the news 24/7 telling people how to feel about things, and what to make of the world around them, and
what to
people
think.
people are tired of it. People want to escape. People want to have something which they can believe in, which has nothing to do with political squabbling.
Yeah, indeed. And you just sold another book 17 minutes ago, by the way. So I think you've sold 3 books
Wow.
in the time that you've been here.
Thank you.
And no, don't thank me. They bought it because of your enthusiasm and your love for your work and your passion.
Wow,
It has nothing
that's
to do
amazing.
with Jimmy. It has everything to do with you.
Thank you, guys.
And of
And
course,
thank you again, Jimmy. You've shown such generosity of spirit, and the time and space that you give to people to talk about their books, to us, to talk about what they think. It's really, really great. And we would love to come on and talk to you again, not just about our book, but other stuff.
you're more. I tell the same thing that I tell anybody that I interview. Anytime y'all want to come back, it's fine with me. I'm trying to do shows only on Fridays because YouTube has so many weird rules. Like, hey, if you want to do this, you want to do that, but I can do. I have a schedule, and it's so I have a schedule because I do Bible study on the weekdays from 8 to 9, and then so pretty much I can't do anything till after 9 o'clock at night. But I can't go for no further than 10 because I have to wake up so early to go to work. Wednesdays I go to church, so I can't do anything on Wednesdays. Friday is kind of like my open night, and sometimes on Saturdays, if I'm drawing, I could be on all day with you, because I'm drawing and I'm bored. So
That'd be amazing.
I'm drawing and I'm bored, so I could easily pop up the channel and just sit down and talk. The whole
Could
time.
join you for maybe a kind of a drawing stream sometime.
Yeah, I would love that. Definitely. I mean, I'm not the greatest artist in the world, but I don't mind. It's all about just having fun. So anytime, and I didn't think Michael would come on. He was. I saw him on Twitter asking for time on streams. I think it was with Mike S. Miller. I think he was tweeting Mike S. Miller.
Yeah, and then you responded. That was that was really appreciated.
And then I was like, hey, I got a small channel and I wouldn't mind talking to you, So
I'm so glad you did. This has been such fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And as I say, it's only our second live stream. I wish it had been our first, to be honest, because it would have been so nice. We had 20 minutes, didn't we, with John?
We're just getting the hang of this timing thing. It was like I figured, we were 6 hours ahead of you. I think it's just 5.
So it's about three something.
Well, I think I told Michael to check out my streams. My streams are really laid back. My streams are super laid back. And well, you've experienced it for yourself. I don't. There's no need to explain it. I guess, But that's what I tell everybody. Donald DeLay was the same way. He was like, I don't know about this. I said, look, dude, it's just gonna be a chill stream. It's gonna be 2 guys talking. We'll talk about whatever. We even talked about him stepping on his kids' toys when he wasn't looking. We don't know where the conversation is gonna go. But it's just a time for you guys to highlight your book, talk about yourselves. And show the world your enthusiasm, because that is more important than any marketing, anything. You can market all you want to, but if people don't believe that that you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, then they're not going to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. You gotta be the first person to sell it. Anytime you talk about your book, it should be with a big smile on your face, and your heart should be racing. 220 beats. Well, maybe not 220 beats. In the hospital, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, this has really gotten us so pumped up, Jimmy. This has been just incredible.
Really, and thank you so much.
Not a problem. I don't want to keep y'all much longer because I know it's gonna go on 4 o'clock over there. Jeez.
Yeah, half 3. Yeah.
Oh yeah, gosh, it's 3:30 here. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
It's been such a nice hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does go by quick.
It does.
But,
it's been, it's gone in a flash.
Yeah, it does. And I feel guilty. I don't want to keep you up. I mean, I could talk to you for another 2 or 3 hours easy, because I'm a talkative person. I think my wife would kill me though, but I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3:30. But it's been great, Jimmy. I really have enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for having us on.
Lady Caroline, it was my pleasure, and you're more than welcome. And Michael has my Twitter handle, and anytime y'all want to just chill and talk or whatever, just hit me up, and and if I'm available, we'll do it.
Oh, that's great to know.
Thanks so much for the offering. Definitely.
No problemo. And don't forget, go for the max when you extend, and allow people to see this stream.
Yeah.
Share it with anybody you can think of. I'll post it on my Twitter and my Facebook.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna copy it.
Just post it everywhere you can post it, and let people see it and hear your voices, and get to know you. And I pray.
Get used to our accents.
Yeah. Oh no, I love. Man, look, when I play on the Xbox, when I'm playing in the mornings, sometimes when I can't sleep, only the British people are on, and so I'll be like, yo, man, just talk about anything, dude. It was like, why? I said, man, British accents are cool to me. I don't know why. It's just so, because I guess we don't hear it here, you know. And so to me, they're pretty cool. People are tired of hearing my accent, so hey, I'll let somebody else talk for a while.
Well, we love your accent.
I appreciate it. Michael, Carolyn, it was really, really nice to meet you guys. I pray that your campaign gets a surge and an up boost, and you're able to meet at least your fixed goal. And I really wish you all the best of luck and success.
Thanks for your advice.
Oh,
Thanks for having
you,
us on.
Jimmy, and especially for the advice about extension, as well as all your kind words. And we do look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you all. And for those of you in the chat, I thank you for joining us. I don't know if I'm going to have a interview next Friday. I'm trying to still get Elliot Fernandez. If anybody talks to Elliot, please refer him to my stream and let him see it for himself, because I really, really want to talk to Elliot. He has a fascinating.
DM him, see if he.
Yeah, I've tried. He's busy. He's fulfilling Black and Red now, and he's doing the sketches. The people that ordered, I think there were 10 sketches that were tiers that were in his book. So he's doing the sketches now, the commissions. So I know he's really, really busy now, but he has such a fascinating story. His story is so fascinating to me, and he's another guy that was on the verge of just like, I'm giving up. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna just.
I've seen his stuff. It's just how you can just come out with it just off the top of his head. It seems as well. Just captures his character. So iconic.
This guy is amazing. I mean, this guy is
tight.
Amazing. And then I don't know if you were on a stream with Ethan, but Ethan read his email thinking that he was just a regular person, not knowing who he was on the live stream. And then the people were telling him, dude, you don't know who Elliot Fernandez is. You need to check him out. And then just like that, Elliot's life just turned around. And now he did his IndieGoGo. He had a successful campaign. And now he's linked up with Nasser and other people. And he's about to, he's really tight-lipped about it. But I want to get him on the show. But he's about to start his own project.
He's going to have some amazing stuff coming up.
Yeah, he's about to start his own project, and he just I just would love to get him. I
can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see his own characters.
He's so calm, and his demeanor is so laid back. And he's witty. I think he would be a real fun interview.
No, I definitely agree.
Oh well, good luck. If we can do anything, we will.
Thanks, I appreciate you guys.
Happy to see you anytime.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without ado, I bless you. I wish you a very blessed evening, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful evening and an enjoyable weekend. I am going to close out this broadcast. My guests were Michael and Carolyn. Their book, which we didn't even go through your IndieGoGo tiers. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, we can do that. It's next time.
The book is called Mortal Worlds, And it has 5 days left, ladies and gentlemen, but they're going to extend it. Please do not give up on them. They're going to do their part, and we're going to do our part, and we're going to get them to the finish line. Y'all have a blessed night, and see you next time.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
you, Jimmy. Good night.
Take care. Bye, Jimmy.